Oh, hi there. It's the Don with the Don Tech. Let me get this into view first, huh? Be smart about it. There we go. Okay. And today I want to talk to you about viruses, more so infections, how you get them, where they come from, how they work, and most importantly, how to avoid them. Let's get started. For starters, I'd like to welcome you to a new segment that I like to call The Don Tech Teaches. And here, I'll give an in-depth analysis of a particular subject in hand in an easy-to-understand language. So don't worry, I don't plan on overcomplicating things or throwing out terms that you're not going to know. It should be in a very easy-to-understand format. Now, this video will not focus on the removal techniques, but go ahead and give this video a like if you'd like to go ahead and see what it takes for professionals to remove infections from a computer. Now, let's go over a couple of the terms that I will be using in this segment. Most of the time when somebody gets a problem on their computer, they're going to call it a virus. While it's not technically correct, it's good enough because it gives you a sense that there is something maliciously wrong with your computer that needs to be fixed. Now, don't be that guy that says, you don't have a virus, you have a Trojan, they're different, because that can result in a throat punch. Now, the main types of problems that people can get would be viruses, Trojans, boot sector viruses, rootkits, malware, adware, spyware, browser hijackers, you name it. But the easiest way to encapsulate all those terms is to simply call them infections. Now, let me go over a couple of the myths and misconceptions that people have when it comes to infections and how they actually get on your computer. The first one is the most common myth, which has to do with the fact that people will think that if they have an antivirus on their computer, that they're going to be protected. And while that's technically true that you are protected, it's not a get out of jail free card or a bulletproof vest. So if it were the case that all you need is an antivirus and you'll be safe on the internet, that's what they would advertise. The second myth, which is very common as well, is that people think that you can only get infections from pornographic websites. And while it's true that a lot of those websites are not as well maintained and there can be more malicious activity within those websites, that's not the case. They're just everywhere. Every website has a chance to be unsecured to some degree. Anything that's connecting to the internet can be hijacked in some regard, and all it takes is one simple click from anything that's not safe and you can get a virus. This third myth is actually my favorite myth, and it's that Apple products do not get infected. And it's nothing but false, because you can get an infection on anything that connects to the internet. So the reason why people are not as prone to getting infections on their Apple products are because of two primary reasons. The first reason is that they are not as common in the overall, not the world, but in the overall who owns a computer. Do they own a Windows-based computer or a Mac-based computer? And most of the time, people own Windows. It's like 80% market share, and Apple has 20%, something around that metric. Windows is significantly higher in that regard. So people are trying to infect the larger share. And as well, Apple products are more difficult to infect. You will not get an infection on a PC the same way you will get one on a Mac. And any of the things you can download and try to run all these infections on a Windows-based machine on a Mac, but they won't do anything. And that's because they run on a different platform. Windows has executable files, and Mac has different files that do not run on that same platform, so you're not going to have the same infections. But the platform that Apple does run on, they can get infections just the same. I've seen it, I've removed it. So don't buy into the false advertising that Apple products are safer, because as this margin gets closer and closer, where it's 50% Apple, 50% Windows products, you're going to find that everything is more easily getting infected. And the final myth that I'm going to talk about today is that phones and tablets don't get infections. And in the same vein with my previous point, they do get infections, they're just not as common. And there's a couple of reasons for that as well. One, the applications that run on phones are much different than what run on a computer, PC or Mac. They don't run and install with an executable or something like that. They usually have a APK file for Android and something else for the Apple products. I have no idea, I've never had an iPhone. So those things are not in the same vulnerability level as the mainstream things for the other computers are. And as well, you can't do anything you want on any of the phones, Android or Apple devices. Usually there's some sort of protection there that disallows you from the get-go to install anything you want to install. And while there are ways to disable that, most users aren't ever going to run into that problem because there's that safeguard already in place. Now let's move on to how people actually get infected. And this answer is going to sting because it's short and sweet and to the point. Are you ready? You are the reason why you have the infection 99% of the time. Either on accident, on purpose, or just out of sheer curiosity, you did something on the computer that allowed an infection to come in. Let me explain what an antivirus is and what an antivirus's job is. An antivirus's purpose is to run in the background and scan your processes and kind of scan not what you're doing, but kind of what's interacting within your computer. And it'll use a scanning methodology with a virus definition database that will pretty much say, hey, is this file infected? Yes or no, and then pretty much ask you what it needs to do. Should I quarantine it or should I allow it? Or sometimes if it's very, very malicious, it'll just abruptly kill the process. But with that in mind, know that the first portion in antivirus is anti, which is a preventative measure from something trying to attack the computer, like I said before. If something is able to come through the machine, through the users by clicking something, nothing is attacking. So the antivirus is kind of letting the user do what it needs to do because it's following the administrator's orders and doing what it needs to do over here. So if you're downloading something over here, telling something, yes, it's okay, telling something to come through, and the machine gets infected, the antivirus can't stop that. Because the antivirus is not the protect-all, as I mentioned way beginning in this video. It will do stuff to protect you from attackers, but it cannot take away your free will. And once an antivirus has been compromised by something being installed onto the machine, those infected files will usually try to disable the antivirus first. So it renders it useless pretty much within the first couple of seconds of a virus being on your computer. And that would be why most of the time my customers come in and say, hey, I have a virus, I think. I run my antivirus, but it came up clean, because that's kind of what it's doing. It's stealthily hiding itself or preventing itself from being found by the antivirus, because then that would be able to remove it. And sometimes the viruses will ping your antivirus and it'll pop up saying, hey, we need to remove this, and you click OK, remove it, get it out of my system. What will happen is that the file will become locked, or it'll attach itself to a Windows file so that it cannot be removed without crashing the system. So there's so much in regards to these viruses and how they do act, and kind of to the point of why antivirus is almost pointless. And usually after I give that information, people will ask, well, why are the antiviruses like that? What's the point of an antivirus? So with that, I always have my favorite analogy, which has to do with a locked car. Now, you're in the parking lot, you roll your windows up, you lock your car, everything is locked, nobody can get in it, and the security, the locks, are protecting you. If you have somebody come in with something that's stronger than that security, like a rock, and they go and they throw that rock at the window, bust through the window, they have access and they've broken your security. That's not the fault of you or the protection. That was something being stronger than the protection. And that's when attacks can happen. Now, if somebody throws pebbles at your window or they try to stick their hand in there, they can't because the window is there, unable to allow them to get in. But something stronger can get through. Now, if you leave the windows down or you leave the doors unlocked, that's you not actively participating in the security elements that are given to you. So if somebody comes through and they go and they reach their hand inside the window and they unlock the door or they take something on your seat, that's the same as allowing something to come in because you're not actively protecting yourself. You're telling something to click and come into the machine, similar to somebody coming into your car, and you're allowing that to happen because the windows aren't up or the doors aren't locked, or a combination of both. And as I said earlier, the reason you get infections, 99% of the time, it's your fault because you're not taking the proper precautions. Now, followed by that, I get somebody asking me a question, which is, well, what antivirus should I purchase? Which one is the better one? And it comes down to similar to cell phone providers. There's a 1 to 5% variance between which one is better and which one is worse, and it's constantly changing month to month, essentially. So if there was one that was better and the best overall, everybody would go to that one, and there wouldn't be a need to go to something lesser because there's something that's just fantastic for everybody. But same with the carriers, there's not a huge difference between the antiviruses that you pay for. But however, I will be making a video in my verdict series about antivirus, which one is good, which one is bad, and if it's even worth it to have or worth it to pay for. So feel free to subscribe, and then you'll be notified when that video comes out. Now, there are several ways you can get tricked into getting infections on your machine, and these aren't ordered in severity. These are just pretty much 1 through 5, what I've noticed. This first one has been around for a very long time, and that's spam emails. Be it from somebody that you know, or a company that you know, such as a tracking company for shipping packages, or even sometimes a website that you are signed up for, such as Facebook or YouTube. They're very easy ways to spoof and send spam emails that can have malicious content within them. And I see it all the time in relation to FedEx, PayPal, IRS, Better Business Bureau, all those guys popping up all the time saying, hey, there's a problem with such and such. Click here, download this to fix the problem, but it's always a scam. So you just have to eventually keep hitting those things to spam and hope that they will stop coming into your inbox. And if they don't, you just have to keep hitting spam. There's nothing you can do to stop those things from coming into your inbox 100%. So it's up to you to be diligent in making sure that you know what is spam and what isn't spam. And not a single email is worth it to open with the risk of getting an infection. So if you don't trust that email, just delete it. A second common way that people get infected would be by following links that they see on social media. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, anything like that that can have a link embedded into it, you can follow it and then that can get you infected. And it's as simple as quizzes on Facebook, not to say that they're unsafe, but that some are and you have to be diligent. But you have quizzes on Facebook, comments on YouTube, giveaway websites, and all sorts of things that encapsulate that. Now a third way are through known acquaintances and their compromised accounts. Most people will call this their account being hacked, but guessing a password does not equal hacking. So you have a friend and you don't really talk to them that much, and they send you an email saying that they're in Bermuda or something like that on a cruise, and that they lost their passports and you need to wire them X amount of money for them to get it. And you're their last hope and the only person whose email or contact information they can remember. It's always a scam. Always a scam, always a scam. If it's not a scam, then, well, you know, they'll have an interesting story to tell when they finally do get back from Bermuda. And with the compromise accounts and everything, that can happen on their emails, and it can happen on their Facebook, where on Facebook they'll post an update saying, hey, check out this cool thing. I just won this $50 Walmart gift card. Click here to enter. You click that, infection, potential. Or similar within emails. Somebody, you know, again, they get their account compromised. They send you an email about, hey, I just sent you this picture, but I can't seem to send it. Click on this link to view it. And if they just recently had a baby or they got a new puppy or something, you're going to be inclined to want to click that email, but you have to just say no, because it's, again, it's not worth risking an infection for to see that one thing. Now, the fourth one can more so be an annoyance, but also can turn into something malicious. And that's downloading fake programs. Be it you're on the computer and a driver updater pops up and wants you to update your drivers, or a system optimizer or a registry cleaner pops up. Those things are things your computer doesn't need. You may think it does because it's either running slow and the pop-up tells you, hey, drivers will increase your system speed, or cleaning your registry will increase the system speed. So let me just debunk those real quick. Now, drivers. As long as everything is working on your computer, there's no need to update your drivers. If you don't know what a driver is, there's no need to update your drivers. If you don't even understand the concept of computers, there's no reason to update your drivers. But if something's not working because of a driver issue, if you even know what that means, take it to a professional to get them to fix it. That's the easiest way. Same with your registry. If you have a registry problem, that's usually okay. Back in the older days of computers, registry issues would actually matter. They would take up, not space, but they would take up, I guess, a log memory essentially, and they would have a actual impact on the system. Nowadays, the registry hive is ginormous. Millions and millions of registry entries are there. So if something pops up telling you you have, 1,000 registry errors, yes, that sounds like a large number, but imagine you have $10 million in your pocket, $1,000 falls out. Are you going to even notice? I mean, yeah, you will because it's money, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to notice that impact on your computer, so don't fall for it. And then same thing with those system cleaners, system mechanic, anything like that. Those aren't going to clean up your machine. They're going to have a chance to download additional things on the computer, and it's going to just be a problem. And reason number 5 is probably the most rampant reason right now as to how people are getting infected. And that's if you are browsing the internet and something pops up with a 1-800 number telling you to call it, or if a 1-800 number or a random number calls you telling you that you have an infection. It is a scam every single time. And if there's one thing that you take away from this video, may it be your understanding that it's all a scam. And what they do is they'll try to get you to run a prompt on your computer, or they'll just tell you that it's reporting problems and they're from Microsoft or something and they need to fix it. But it is always a scam. And I cannot say that enough, because that's what I see more people fall to than anything else, is that particular scam. So just be diligent on that and make sure that you're not getting caught in that 1-800 number scam if they call you or if they ask you to call them. Do not call them. Always hang up if you ever get a call. All right, you better buckle up and get ready for some harsh truth, because things will not get better and cannot get better until you start to take responsibility for your actions and start learning where infections come from and how you can actually avoid them. Because these guys that are making these infections are playing off of what we fall victim to. It used to be the Nigerian prince scam. That still goes on, but that was huge because so many people fell for it. And now there's FedEx emails because everybody is shipping something. And there's things with the IRS for businesses because everybody's afraid of being, hit by the IRS. So you have to be diligent and learn everything. You cannot hide behind the veil that you have a bulletproof vest. You cannot hide behind the idea that an antivirus will protect you, and you cannot hide behind the idea that it's everything else's fault, because it comes down to you and us and what we do and how we respond. As I mentioned in point number 5 for those how people get infections most often, if we didn't pick up those numbers for the 800 numbers and we didn't call them when that popped up on our screen, that infection would have come and gone in a week, just like every other infection has come and gone. But this one has stayed for a very long time because people keep falling for it. Even this past week, I had one day where within a couple of hours, I had 5 people calling me, asking me the legitimacy of it. And you can see I even tweeted about it at that point to warn people, stop actually doing this. You have to be cautious. So until that actually happens and until you take responsibility, you're going to keep letting those things go on. So take this video and use it as something to help prepare yourself to just be smarter about when you're on the internet. Now, don't think I was just going to leave you without any tips or tricks on how I do it, because I'll give you those as well. Because there are a couple of things you can do to make the browsing experience better and make it so that you're not as vulnerable to some of those things. So I'd like to go through some of those options that I use personally to help my experience when I'm browsing the internet and when I'm on my computer. The first one is using a better browser. So many people are still using Internet Explorer, and it is the least secure browser. And if you're on Apple, you're using Safari. I have no idea, quite honestly, how secure that is, but Firefox and Chrome are by far the most secure browsers that are out there. Secondly, and I've been trying to touch up on this a lot, you have to be aware that every single click matters. No matter if you mean to, you don't mean to, or your kid was on the computer and clicked something, it doesn't matter. These viruses don't know and don't care if it was something that you meant to do or not meant to do, and they will get you regardless of which. So that's something you really have to be careful of, and remember, every click matters, and it is that simple to get an infection. And finally, you have to actually use preventative measures. Have an antivirus on your computer and have some other software on there that may help protect you. Now, Malwarebytes Anti-Malware is a fantastic program that can help remove infections that are on the machine if you get the free version, or will also actively scan preventing infections from coming on the machine if you want to pay the fee for it. And how about me? What do I use to stay safe? I personally use Microsoft Security Essentials. That's a free download from Microsoft, and it's also available bundled into the computer on Windows 8.1 and Windows 10 machines, but that's what I use on my Windows 7 computers is Microsoft Security Essentials, and I've gotten no infections. It's what I recommend all my clients use, and they'll get infections just the same because every antivirus, like I mentioned before, isn't necessarily, whoa, here's this amazing one, and whoa, this one, you probably want to avoid it. Unless this one's Norton, then I would say avoid it. Now, I'll put a link in the description below in relation to where you can download Malwarebytes Anti-Malware in a safe way, but if you pay for it, then you will actually get the added benefit of having active self-protection as you're using it. And let me say that no, this video is not sponsored by Malwarebytes or anybody for that matter. Malwarebytes is just a program that I've known to trust when it comes to removing infections and safeguarding people. But I did reach out to Malwarebytes in hopes that they would want to do some sort of interaction with this video, but I haven't heard back from them. So Malwarebytes, if you're out there, here's some free promo, but give me some free promo. Maybe a shirt, size large, I'll take it. So I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope that you learned something about infections and some way that you can help protect yourself, because that's my goal here, is to make it so that you're learning something in these teaching series. So please give me a like if you liked it. Give me a dislike if it was something that you didn't learn anything about, or if you even know more than me, please leave a comment below. I always want to learn things. So anyways guys, thanks for watching, and remember, the Don's got your back.